Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're moving beyond the usual headlines, really getting into the deep currents of history.
That's right. And the sources we're looking at today are, well, they're tangled, they're dark, often really contradictory. It forces you to ask some pretty fundamental questions about power, about propaganda, and maybe even about, human nature itself.
We're sailing right into the life of Tiberius Caesar, a really dramatic and, frankly, deeply unsettling story.
Yeah, we're going to take a really close look at the sources around his big retreat, that decade he spent on the island of Capri.
And the mission here, our goal, is to try and separate the legend, the story of this grotesque, sadistic monster, from what might be the more tragic reality of the actual man.
Exactly. Was he the monster or maybe just a broken man? That's the core question.
In Capri itself, you
Yeah.
have to picture it. 26 AV, it's a stunning place, right? 12 square miles, limestone cliffs plunging into the sea, hidden caves, sunshine.
Geographically, it's paradise. Augustus loved it there.
But politically, it becomes this infamous psychological cage. The most powerful man in the world goes there, and either he finds some kind of salvation from Rome.
Or, as the dark legends tell it, he basically damns his soul forever. It's quite the setup.
When he left for Capri, Rome must have been buzzing. Was he stepping back? Was this good for the Senate?
Or was it, the beginning of the end? A sign of imperial collapse? Nobody really knew.
I bet nobody suspected they were watching the birth of a legend so dark, so persistent, that historians like us would still be debating it 2,000 years later.
Absolutely. It's incredibly durable, that negative image.
So who was this guy? Tiberius Claudius Nero. Even the name sounds like a contradiction.
It really does. Claudius meaning lame or weak, Nero meaning strong. It's almost like foreshadowing, isn't it?
A man sort of split between duty and maybe a desire for peace, between honor and, well, horror.
That's a good way to put it. And physically, he was imposing. Sources say easily 6 feet tall, which was significant then.
Built like a soldier.
Definitely. Shoulders built for war, trained from his youth. His face apparently was like a roadmap of his campaigns, scars.
Yeah, you mentioned a spear wound from Germania.
That's the one. Above the left eye, and another from a fall, a cavalry charge gone wrong. This wasn't some pampered aristocrat sitting in Rome.
But the eyes. The sources always come back to the eyes, don't they?
They do. Cold, calculating, heavy-lidded. That's the description we get. Eyes that had seen too much war, too much politics.
Too much betrayal, maybe, to really trust anyone.
I think that's fair to say. He was groomed by Augustus and Livia, spent, 22 years on campaign?
Pannonia, Germania.
Yeah.
Relentless.
Yeah.
Then 9 years governing tough provinces.
He was Rome's perfect weapon, in a way. Flawless execution, even if he seemed reluctant sometimes. Trained by the master, Augustus himself.
Okay, so here's the crux of it then. If he's this seasoned general, this super effective administrator, Rome's best, arguably, how does he become the most despised tyrant in Roman memory? What went wrong?
Well, the answer isn't just about him. It's about the stage he inherited. It's about Augustus and the impossible act Tiberius had to follow. He refused to play the game Augustus had perfected.
Right, let's unpack that Augustan legacy, because it's crucial context, isn't it?
Absolutely essential. Augustus ruled for, 45 years? His genius was transforming Rome from this chaotic republic into an empire.
While pretending nothing fundamental had changed. That's the trick.
Exactly, the master illusionist. Silk wrapped around steel, that's the famous description. He controlled the grain, kept the masses happy.
And the legions. He controlled the army, which is what really mattered.
But he let the Senate feel important. He gave them the rituals, the honors, the debates about budgets they couldn't really change. They could play at governing.
A beautiful dance, really. Give the aristocracy the titles, the spectacle, the divine charm.
Make them feel valued.
While keeping all the real power, money, and military firmly in his own hands. He was basically a god while he was alive.
And when he died in 14 AD, boom, Tiberius steps into this massive void. It wasn't a stable handover. Not really.
The Senate, you said, was like a theater troupe.
That's how the sources put it. All pretense and flattery, unable to govern but still able to complain. Very loudly.
And the people. Addicted to the bread and circuses Augustus provided.
Completely. They expected the games, the cheap grain, the grand buildings to just keep coming, and the army. Geared for conquest, expecting rewards.
So Tiberius, the efficient general, the administrator, is suddenly asked to play the role of a god emperor, a role he clearly didn't want or even respect.
And for 11 years, from 14 AD to 26 AD, he tries. He really governs responsibly by Roman standards.
And effectively, too, right? Cut spending, strengthen defenses.
Incredibly effective by any rational measure. He targeted the crazy spending under Augustus, secured the frontiers, even tried reforming the legal system to make it fairer.
But that competence, that was the problem. Rome didn't want competence.
Rome wanted charisma. They wanted Augustus back. The Senate moaned about Tiberius's efficiency, missed Augustus's charm. They wanted someone to wink at their debts, fund more games.
And instead, they got this soldier who read every report, questioned every denarius spent, and remembered every insult.
Exactly. He believed in balanced budgets and military discipline, not popularity contests.
He was medicine when they wanted wine. That sums it up pretty well.
It does. The people got fiscal prudence instead of week-long spectacles. The Senate got scrutiny instead of deference.
And the aristocracy. They hated him most.
Oh, visceral hatred. These old families, they had survived by bowing to Augustus. Tiberius saw right through them, their debts, their schemes, their whispers.
He didn't see it as politics to manage, but as treason.
Precisely. Like a disease to be cut out.
Right.
Ruthlessly.
Which brings us to the Maestas laws, the treason laws. He started using those more, didn't he?
Increasingly. Weaponizing them against the elite. If Augustus played chess with the Senate, Tiberius. Well, he brought out the flamethrower. Political opposition became conspiracy.
Which must have generated immense fear.
Fear, resentment, and crucially, it created the perfect environment for actual conspiracy. The paranoia fed itself.
And that fear, that paranoia,
Yeah.
it sets the stage perfectly for the next major player, doesn't it? The man who would prove all Tiberius's fears were justified.
Enter Lucius Aelius Sejanus, prefect of the Praetorian Guard.
Tiberius's right-hand man. His closest confidant, maybe the only person he felt he could trust.
Quite possibly. If Tiberius was the blunt sword of the empire, Sejanus, he was the subtle poison. Very effective.
And he was everything Tiberius wasn't, right? Smooth, charming.
Socially adept, knew how to play the game in Rome. People either liked him or more likely feared him enough to pretend they did. Where Tiberius was awkward and remote, Sejanus thrived.
And for 8 years, he plays the loyal subordinate.
Perfectly. The ideal second in command. While running this silent coup that Tiberius incredibly seems completely blind to.
His first big move, centralizing the Praetorian Guard. That was huge, wasn't it?
Absolutely massive. Before Sejanus, the guard cohorts were scattered around Rome and nearby towns. Bodyguards, customs officials, that sort of thing.
But he brings them all together into one huge camp just outside the city.
Exactly. The Castra Praetoria. He sells it as an efficiency measure, better security.
But it's a political earthquake.
Totally. It turns the guard from dispersed bodyguards into this single, powerful military force right on Rome's doorstep. One man, Sejanus, now commands an army that could literally seize the capital overnight.
And Tiberius, the brilliant general fighting Germans, misses the threat right under his nose.
Seems that way. Sejanus expands the guard, puts his own guys in key government jobs, always talking about efficiency, security.
Building his network.
Systematically. And then comes the succession crisis, right when Sejanus is at his peak power.
Drusus dies. Tiberius' own son, his heir, suddenly in 23 AD.
Officially illness, but incredibly convenient for Sejanus, wouldn't you say?
And this is only 4 years after Germanicus died, Tiberius' nephew, adopted son, hugely popular.
Also under very mysterious circumstances in Syria. Poison was suspected then, too.
One by one, the people in Sejanus' way, they just seemed to drop. Fevers, accidents.
It's a pattern. Modern historians debate, naturally, lack of concrete proof. But the ancient writers, Tacitus, Suetonius, Dio, they were pretty convinced. Poison. And Sejanus' name always came up in the whispers.
By 25 AD, the path is clear for him. The main heirs are gone.
And he's positioned himself as the indispensable man, the link between the emperor, who's starting to seem more distant, and the actual running of the state. He's emperor in all but name.
But what was his endgame? Did he want Tiberius dead?
Probably not immediately. That would be messy, unpredictable. No, Sejanus' goal, it seems, was Tiberius' retreat, his disappearance.
He wanted Tiberius out of sight, out of mind. Off playing philosopher on some island while Sejanus ran the show.
Exactly. And Sejanus' real masterpiece was psychological warfare. He became the artist of alienation.
Destroying Tiberius' will to rule.
He didn't even need to lie, necessarily. He just curated the truth. Every report, every rumor Tiberius received through Sejanus painted Rome as this viper's nest. Ungrateful, plotting, corrupt.
With Sejanus as the only loyal one left.
The only honest broker in a sea of treachery. He fed Tiberius evidence, probably real evidence, manipulated that the Senate plotted against him, which they did.
That the people mocked him.
Also true that the aristocracy conspired. True again. But Sejanus controlled the narrative, shaped the context. He built this cage of justified paranoia around Tiberius.
And Tiberius, exhausted after 11 years of thankless rule, grieving his losses.
He starts to buy it. Maybe Rome would be better off without him meddling. Maybe Sejanus could handle it.
Then the final push, a real conspiracy. Late 25 A.D.
Yeah, a genuine plot involving senators, even members of the imperial family. It was uncovered, dealt with harshly.
4 executions,
Yes.
more hatred directed at Tiberius.
Which just reinforced the cycle, confirmed everything Sejanus had been whispering. That winter, Tiberius makes a decision. He needs a break, officially, temporary, to let things cool down.
And guess who has the perfect suggestion for where to go?
Sejanus, of course. Capri. Isolated, beautiful, easily defended. Perfect. In 26 AD, Tiberius sails away, essentially signing his own exile warrant, orchestrated by his most trusted friend.
So the imperial ship heads for Capri, those cliffs, those grottos. Augustus loved it for peace, but Tiberius is coming for something else, isolation.
And he doesn't travel light. This isn't a vacation. He brings the government with him, practically.
Hundreds of people, guards, staff, scribes, doctors, astrologers.
Astrologers were crucial, but yes, a whole administrative apparatus. Everything needed to rule an empire stretching from Britain to Egypt, now crammed onto this tiny island.
Initially, it seems to work, right? He's still governing.
For the first few months, yeah. Letters go out, decisions are made, provincial taxes, military postings. Business as usual, just with a better view and no annoying senators dropping by.
But then, the isolation starts to bite. The sources really stress this. It's like a drug.
It is. The first taste is relief. Peace. Quiet. No demands. The second taste is freedom. Absolute freedom. No one watching, no one judging.
And the third taste, enslaves.
That's the idea. By the next winter, he's reading fewer reports. By 28 AD, governors are complaining their urgent messages are being ignored.
A micromanager is checking out.
He's diving into Greek philosophy, studying the stars with his astrologer Thrasyllus, just staring out at the sea for hours, the world's most powerful hermit.
But the power doesn't just vanish when he stops using it constructively, does it?
No, that's the terrifying part. Absolute power, unchecked by routine, tradition, public opinion. It doesn't dissipate. It kind of festers. It metastasizes.
He still has the power, but he starts using it differently,
Yeah.
more arbitrarily.
Exactly. Based on paranoia, maybe boredom, a whim, a bad mood.
And the accounts of his personal state, they're pretty chilling.
Consistent, too. Even it's filtered through hostile sources later. Days staring at the sea. Sudden violent rages over trivial things. A bad meal, a slow slave, a letter arriving late.
With no constraints, right? No Senate to answer to, no public opinion to manage, just him and his whims on an island.
Absolute freedom, absolute power, absolute isolation. It's a recipe for, well, for the stories that followed.
And this is where we really have to put on our critical thinking hats, isn't it? Because the sources for what supposedly happened next on Capri, they're problematic.
Extremely problematic. Almost everything lurid we hear comes from Tacitus, Suetonius, Cassius Dio, all writing decades later, all from the senatorial class or aligned with it.
People whose families might have suffered under Tiberius's treason laws or the purges after Sejanus, they had an axe to grind.
A massive axe. Their entire historical project, in some ways, required justifying Tiberius's damnatio memoriae, the official condemnation of his memory. They needed to make him monstrous.
So the really graphic stuff, it's almost certainly propaganda.
Highly likely. And you have to understand, accusing emperors of sexual deviancy wasn't just mudslinging. It was a standard literary trope, a political weapon.
We see it with Caligula and incest, Nero and matricide, Commodus.
Right. It was the quickest way to demolish an emperor's reputation, attack his core Roman virtue, his gravitas. You make him seem perverse, unmanly, unfit to lead.
And the accusations against Tiberius hit hard. Villa Jovis, the clifftop palace, the Spintriae, these supposed experts in exotic sex acts.
Exactly. Designed to shock and disgust a Roman audience.
And the worst one, the minnows or little fishes, the story about boys swimming between his legs.
That's the nuclear option in Roman terms. Accusing a leader, especially a military man like Tiberius, of pederasty was the ultimate character assassination. It stripped him of all dignity, authority, sobriety in Roman eyes. It was pure political poison.
And importantly, there are no contemporary neutral accounts of any of this.
Yeah.
These stories bloom after he's dead.
Long after. When he can't retaliate and when his enemies are writing the history, they reflect what Romans believed happened or what powerful people wanted them to believe, not necessarily the reality.
Okay, so let's try to strip away the propaganda, the embellishments. What are we left with?
I think we're left with something maybe more tragic, actually. Not a monster, but a profoundly broken man.
He's 57 when he gets to Capri. He's spent his whole life serving an empire that never seemed to love him back.
And the personal losses? They're immense. His first wife, Vipsonia, taken from him by Augustus for political marriage. His beloved brother Drusus, dead on campaign. Germanicus, his adopted son, likely poisoned.
And then his own son Drusus dies under Silvanus's watch.
Everyone he loved and trusted seemed to die young or betray him. You can see how that would warp someone.
So maybe he wasn't ruling from Capri, he was hiding, a refugee.
Fleeing the weight of it all, the demands, the hatred, the suspicion. It's a different picture, isn't it?
And the paranoia that consumed him later, maybe it wasn't entirely unfounded.
Given what happened with Sejanus, it was probably completely justified. People really were plotting against him, and the biggest plotter was running Rome in his name.
Right. While Tiberius is stargazing and isolating himself, Sejanus is an idol back in Rome.
Not at all. By 29 AD, he's at the height of his power. He controls access to Tiberius, filtering messages, maybe even writing responses.
He's getting honors usually reserved for the emperor, statues, public holidays for his birthday.
Exactly. He thinks he's won. He assumes Tiberius has just given up, checked out completely, political surrender.
But he makes a huge mistake. He forgets who Tiberius really is.
He underestimates the old general. Tiberius might be isolated, but he wasn't stupid, and his own intelligence network, built over decades of military command, was still operating.
Loyal agents, old army buddies, bypassing Sejanus's filters.
Sejanus never saw it. These channels were secret, long established. Reports start trickling directly to Capri.
And Tiberius starts putting the pieces together, the deaths, the power grabs.
Slowly, carefully. He realizes the extent of the betrayal, the orchestration. Sejanus forgot rule number 1. Never underestimate a patient, methodical general. Tiberius understood deception, patience, and how to strike decisively.
So throughout 30 AD, Tiberius sets a trap.
A meticulous one. He starts praising Sejanus even more. Letters from Capri become frequent, effusive. More honors, more responsibilities heaped onto Sejanus.
Making him feel secure, lowering his guard.
Making him feel indispensable, untouchable. Sejanus relaxes, gets overconfident. He doesn't hear the trap spring closing.
Until October 18th, 31 AD, the day of the blade.
A masterclass in political takedown. Sejanus walks into the Senate that morning expecting, maybe even more honors. Tribunician power, perhaps?
But there's a letter from Tiberius, read by not just anyone.
Read by Naevius Sutorius Macro, the man Tiberius had secretly summoned to Capri, appointed as the new Praetorian prefect, and sent back to Rome just days before. Sejanus has no idea Macro has replaced him.
Wow, and the letter starts nicely.
It starts with praise, standard imperial stuff. Sejanus is probably beaming. Then the tone shifts. Subtle criticisms appear. Doubts, questions.
And then it escalates.
Sharpens into direct accusations, treason, conspiracy, betrayal. Laying it all out.
The Senate must have been stunned.
Utterly. Imagine the scene. Macro finishes reading. Silence. Then chaos. Sejanus is arrested right there on the Senate floor. Stripped of his rank, dragged away.
Like a common criminal, the sources say.
And the vengeance is swift and brutal. Sejanus executed within hours. His children, his key supporters, hunted down and killed in the following days and weeks.
And his name chiseled off monuments everywhere. Damnatio memoriae in practice.
Tiberius proved 2 things. Distance didn't matter, and he was still utterly ruthless when crossed. Isolation was no shield against his power.
But finding out Sejanus betrayed him, that didn't bring Tiberius peace, did it? It did the opposite.
It shattered him. It confirmed his deepest, darkest fears. The logic became inescapable. If Sejanus, my closest friend, my partner, could do this, then anyone could. Everyone must be plotting.
So the paranoia just explodes.
It's supernova. The purges start immediately targeting Sejanus' network, but it quickly spirals way beyond that.
It becomes a tool to settle old scores, get rid of rivals.
Anyone perceived as a threat. Senators who'd muttered criticism years ago. Rich aristocrats whose wealth made them seem powerful. Even historians whose writings seemed a bit too Republican.
Tiberius, who started out trying to rule by law, ends up ruling purely by terror.
Completely. A letter, a denunciation arriving from Capri. That was basically a death sentence. An astrologer giving you a bad horoscope, proof of conspiracy.
The treason laws, maestas, gets stretched to cover anything. Thoughts, words.
Pretty much. It created this atmosphere of suffocating fear in Rome. Estimates vary, but hundreds certainly died in these purges, maybe more.
People learned to whisper. Children told not to say their parents' names out loud.
For fear some spy might overhear, twist it, send a report to Capri. It was a reign of terror managed remotely from paradise.
So the final years, 32 to 37 AD, Tiberius has eliminated Sejanus, but he trusts no one.
Absolutely no one with real power. He rules through this constantly shifting cast of characters, spies, informers, executioners like Macro, playing them off against each other, constant suspicion.
It's amazing the empire kept functioning at all.
It functioned, but barely. The core machinery Augustus built was strong, but the political center in Rome was paralyzed by fear and uncertainty.
And Tiberius himself.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes the ultimate prisoner, doesn't he? Trapped by the very security he craved on Capri.
That's the irony. The stories paint this picture of him constantly moving between villas, different bedrooms every night, paranoid about assassins.
Whether that's literally true or not, the reality was probably profound loneliness.
Surrounded only by people terrified of him, servants, guards, all just waiting for him to die. His paradise became his prison, a very luxurious, beautiful prison, but a prison nonetheless.
Until March 16th, 37 AD, he finally dies, age 77.
Official cause, natural illness, old age. Seems plausible, but Roman historians, they love drama.
They couldn't resist spicing up the ending, could they?
Not a chance. Suetonius has him dying during a failed attempt to return to Rome. Tacitus hints that Macro, the new prefect, might have helped things along.
Lathered him to make sure Caligula inherited.
That's the suggestion, to prevent Tiberius from changing his mind at the last second.
And the most famous story, the one everyone remembers.
That he seemed dead, they announced it, celebrated, then he suddenly recovered, sat up, asked for food.
And terrified attendants quickly smothered him with his bed sheets to make sure he stayed dead this time.
Exactly. Probably complete fiction, but it makes for a great dark story, doesn't it? Reflects the fear he inspired.
The news hits Rome. Instant celebration.
Immediate, ecstatic, citywide relief. Tiberius is gone. Long live Caligula, the new guy, young, charismatic. He's greeted as a savior. A return to Augustan sunshine.
Oh, the irony. They had no idea what was coming with Caligula.
None at all. Caligula's descent into absolute madness happened so fast it actually made Tiberius's grim, competent tyranny look, well, almost reasonable in hindsight.
But it was too late for Tiberius's reputation. The narrative was set.
History chose the monster myth. The lonely, broken administrator was buried under the legend of the sadistic pervert on Capri.
So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean for us looking back?
I mean, Tiberius was clearly dealt a difficult hand, faced impossible choices, and under the pressure of absolute power and isolation, he made increasingly destructive ones. He wasn't a saint, not by any means.
But probably not the one-dimensional cartoon villain his enemies painted either.
Exactly. He was something more complex and maybe more chilling. A capable man, perhaps fundamentally decent in some ways, who was broken and ultimately corrupted by power and loneliness.
And the lesson for us is about the sources, isn't it? Always ask why they're telling you something.
Always. What's the agenda? The bias. Who benefits from this version of the story? Question the narrative, especially when it's simple and sensational.
And connecting it to today, the dynamics haven't vanished, have they? The isolation of power.
Not at all. The aesthetics change, island villas become private jets, secure compounds, echo chambers online, but the core issue remains. Lack of accountability.
Isolation still breeds excess. Power still corrodes empathy. Secrecy enables cruelty.
It seems to be a recurring pattern. The real danger isn't always the obvious monster. It's the slow, quiet decay inside. The ordinary, unnoticed decisions made by powerful people who become insulated from consequences, who stop, being fully human inside.
So, Judge Tiberius, perhaps. But the story isn't just about him. The forces that warped him absolute power meeting absolute isolation, they're still around. Closer than we might think.
Which leaves us with that final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If the modern equivalent of Capri is an invisible, insulated space, who is truly invisible to our systems today? And which modern palaces, literal or metaphorical, need the most sunlight shone on them?